basically, I wanted to go over, I get a lot of questions on, since I work with a lot of younger athletes, basically 10 to 12-year-olds and 14 to about 17 in some college. I get a lot of questions on basically how they should be training for their sport, if they should be doing chest one day, legs one day, arms another day. And I understand, because of popularity of bodybuilding schemes that are out there in the magazines, that's why they talk about this stuff. But for the most part, that is only a portion of what they should be working on. So I want to talk about the traits of programming, or what, for athleticism, what they should be working on. And I mean, if I had to name off the top things that they should be working on, and we'll break it down and how to program or how to write workouts and from there, I'd say number one is pretty self-explanatory, is strength. And just talking about strength, understand that there's all different types of strength. Not only like when somebody asks you, yo, how much you bench? What they're basically asking you is maximal, or basically absolute. And they're asking you basically, how much can you, everybody's always asking you, how much can you bench? They're talking about 1 rep. But maximal strength is that 1 to 5 rep zone. And this is something important, but not just yet for beginners, but understand this is a trait that they should be incorporating in their workouts. But in the beginning, they need to do it in a systematic way. Secondly, you want to work on power. And this could be broken down into like dynamic and reactive. So this is stuff like your plyometrics, your quick lifts, or your dumbbell snatches, your cleans, your throws with a med ball, all different stuff like that. And then basically the other last part is endurance. One of the things that big factors in training, or do you have that fourth quarter mentality? Can you win if you're tired? So that's the other factor, is endurance. Now from there, that's just strength. Secondly, one of the other things that we want to talk about, and understand that this is speed, so I'm not leaving out speed at all. Second thing that we want to talk about is mobility, I feel. Because the ability to move in certain positions and get yourself out of certain positions is a very valued thing to me. A lot of injuries will be reduced, and you're just going to be a more mobile and agile athlete the more you can move. So basically, know that you want to start your workouts. The last thing could be skill. But in the weight room, that's the last thing that we want to worry about. Skill is the last thing. That's really not 100% my job. That's your coach's job. And I'm taking for granted that these kids, when they come to me, they're taking accountability and working on their skills. Whatever they do, wrestle, football, soccer, basketball, swimming, they need to practice and perfect whatever they do. I enhance that through what I do. So basically, one of the first things that they want to work with in a program or in a workout is, say they come in, first thing, self-explanatory, we're going to foam roll, get in some mobility work, whatever it is that I did throughout their assessment, what they specifically need. We're going to do this as a group, and also mobility. I give this out as homework, so they're able to do it 3 to 4 times a day, 3 to 5 minutes each time, as opposed to one big session. I want them to do it frequently so they can reap the benefits of that. From there, we're going to get understanding energy systems. We're going to get into some, basically some power work, something power-wise. So understand that's dynamic, reactive. And when I talk about this stuff, I'm talking about, like I said, I'm talking about our throws, our plyometrics. Plyometrics, I like to break them down into vertical and horizontal jumping. And something around what I call, I like to keep it between 10 to 15 jumps. And I really like to excite the nervous system and really excite what's going on. Secondly, after that, we want to get into, basically, if we're talking about beginners, and you have to break your guys up to beginners and advanced. We're going to get into our different are different movements, are different strength movements, whatever it is for that day. Understand that as a coach, I already have this stuff laid out, but you want to have basically your top maybe 8 to 10 upper body movements, all the way down to 10, lower body movements, about 5 to 6 plyos. I like to just rotate through those, not make it too fancy, just the stuff that really works. And you want to plug and play every day. Basically, advanced, so I would say it's a lower body day. One of the first things I like to teach is understand that these are movement patterns. So I'm really looking at pushes, pulls, hinges. Let's talk about squatting. And I'd say carries would be up in there. And that's basically, from there I have my different exercises that fall into each pattern, and also I break them down into beginner and advanced. So in beginner, my beginner guys I could be teaching a goblet squat, and my advanced guys they could be hitting a front squat, which I like to teach first before the back squat. And then these guys, depending on where they're at, depending how they need to put a little size on, I like to not go under 5 reps. So 5 reps, 5 to around 8, somewhere around there. These guys, they've been with me for a while and they've been a little bit established. They understand the movement. I want to hit maximal effort 1 to 5, and I'm not getting into how to periodization or undulation or anything like that. But understand that you need some type of rep scheme. Linear works really good for beginner guys, meaning you just keep moving up, add a rep. So you either add a rep or add a set every workout. That'll fail after a while also, but it'll work for a while. And advanced, you want to keep it some type of wave format, and there's tons of different information on that out there. Basically, from there, that's that, and I may couple that with certain other strength movements that'll help that movement. I may only solely work on that in itself. Secondly, we want to get into some auxiliary lifts, and this is where that support these lifts. This is where I'm more worried about hypertrophy and strength endurance. So this is where I'm working that 6 to 10, you could argue 12 rep zone for hypertrophy. And strength endurance, I want to work 12 plus. And understand that this is all thought out process through energy systems. We understand that we have different systems in our body for different reserves of power and strength. So if you had to basically look at the human body and how the first thing that you produce here is that creatine phosphate energy system, and that's very powerful, explosive. That only lasts so long. Secondly, we want to go into our basically, I believe, if I remember right, this is that 2 to 5 rep zone of wherever you're doing work. This is that glycogen, or where glycolysis is happening. This is what's stored in the muscle. And the last thing that we're gonna do is that oxidative system. This is where you're working, basically using oxygen for fuel. So this is when you're really breathing heavy, and that's what you're using as fuel right there. So you have the 3 different systems, and understand this is basically the beginning, the power. Here is the 2 to 5, you're using glycogen or carbohydrates. This is basically, you could say, strength, different formats, different ways. Even, I mean, it's argumentative, you could put that into there also. And oxidative, this is that really long endurance conditioning type work. So you want to format this basically upper, lower, depends on how you want to scheme things. It all factors in. A lot of people like to have it so they work strength one day, power one day, endurance one day. I like to have it all across the board where we work on that like I'm showing you every day. So the reason I like to do this, and I also like to use full body workouts for the most part, is because a lot of sport, there's nothing that you're just using solely one body part. A lot of sport is integrated right throughout the entire trunk, throughout the entire body. You use your whole body for sport. And secondly, I found that what if certain kids can only come on certain days, so they can only train Monday, Thursday. So say I keep that format of strength one day, power one day, endurance one day. So guess what? He's only hitting strength and endurance, and he's lacking. So like I said, if he comes in one day, I like to make sure that he's getting the best of everything. And then basically, you want to get into your auxiliary lifts, like I said, hypertrophy, strength, endurance, and you want to support the main lifts. And then from there, you want to basically condition however you see fit. This is more open, a little bit open. I like to do time stuff and a little bit skill specific if I could. If I'm working with a bunch of wrestlers, I might literally make them drill for 30 seconds and then do a full body lift for 30 seconds. You could do rep schemes. You could run ladders, which is another rep scheme. But that's a little bit more open, and it's a little bit more open to play around. But this is just a basic template of what you want to do. And then this is just, like I said, this is just one way. But understand that we're not working, when you're training for athleticism, you're not necessarily training body parts, you're training movement patterns of what's going to help you best on the field. So you want to be strong, explosive, and powerful, and you want to be able to move at the same time and be conditioned. So it takes some bit of thought process, but it's really not that complicated once you have a standard template. And understand that that's what we do, is we make the templates. Now this is just one way. We won't get into periodization, but you should have set weeks and goals where you're basically building up the intensity and backing off, as the body can only go so hard for so long. So, like I said, there's probably some other stuff that I left out, like agility, coordination, and balance a little bit, and even mental set. You could bring mental set into that topic also. But this is just how and why you should be designing your workouts, or what you should be working on. So the idea is to warm the body up, get some mobility, get the blood flowing, start the engine, get a light sweat going, however you want. Basically work on something powerful, or speed, dynamic or reactive, whether it be sprinting, jumping, throwing something, in all different directions. And you want to keep that stuff as powerful and strong as possible. So you want to keep the reps low on that, because once you're not producing speed or power, it's really not doing much. Then you want to get into your strength work, and that's pretty much subjective, or depending on what you want to work on. Upper body, you should have a list of upper body lifts, a list of lower body lifts for the strength part, and they should also be broken up into unilateral and obviously both segments at the same time. And you could go, and like I said, pushes, pulls. You should be hinging, squatting, carrying, and you should have lifts for the anterior of the body, posterior of the body. Then you want to get into your auxiliary lifts, the stuff that's going to help support those bigger lifts. And you want to, if he needs some muscle building work, you want to work in that 6 to 10, possibly 12 rep zone. And if they're already strong, you don't really want to work that much strength work. I mean, there's a certain thing as optimal strength also, where he only needs to be so strong for his for whatever he does, he or she, I'm sorry. And you also want to work strength endurance in that portion also. So you could have one day hypertrophy work, another day you can have 12 plus on the reps. And then you want to condition them, and you could play around with this. This you could have some fun with a little bit. And this is more mental training right here. You could really do some good stuff within this. So I hope that helped. This is Lou from TSA. This is just how I do things. Other people do things a little bit differently. Let me know if that helped you guys, and I'll be